Hey, welcome everybody to Making Worlds Cooperative Bookstore and Social Center. My name is Mala Pinuga. I'm one of the cooperative members and co-founders of this space. I want to thank you all for coming out on a Friday night. If you're here, you got the memo, you know why it's important to be here. But just to say that it's an honor for us also, after a little over 5 years in this space, to be continuing the work of maintaining a cooperative bookstore and a programming and a social space where we can welcome folks into, learn from each other, deepen our analysis, understand how to frame and analyze sets of problems that we can approach collectively. And not only do that with the folks that are in the room and who can come together, although that's a crucial component of it, but to always remember that there are folks that we are attached to, that we belong to, that are not able to be in the room, and to center that in the way that we think about who's here and who's not here, and what does it mean to set about organizing for freedom for all of us. And so after 5 long years, we are coming to the end of our lease in this space, and we are finding a new space for this project. We don't have one yet, so I want to thank you again for coming out to this iteration of things, and please stay tuned on the news that we'll be able to spread out about where we're headed next. But in the meantime, we're launching Sheena King's book, Submerged, on healing from abuse while navigating a lifetime of imprisonment. And I just want to say, so I'm thinking about the very early days of Making Worlds. I think one of the very first events that we did the weekend that we opened was with the campaign to bring Mumia home. And Mumia Abu-Jamal has always been really close to this project, a deep inspiration for what we do and why we do, and why we want to promote the collective voices and the shared histories of folks who are freedom fighters, and especially those who are currently behind bars as well, but also have learned over the last 5 years a lot from our coalitional programming work with Abolitionist Law Center, Amistad Law Project, the Philly Works Through Bars, and a bunch of other abolitionist organizations here in Philadelphia that do this work of the kind of inside-outside analysis and organizing and care, without which we wouldn't necessarily have the abolitionist compass that we do in this project. So I want to also thank a whole kind of constellation of organizations, that some of which are here today and are behind Sheena King and are involved in the making and the supporting and the sustaining of Sheena's life behind bars, but also the publication. So I'm going to I just want to say, because we're going to get some bios and introduce this panel in a moment, but just to say that we're also joined by folks from the Logan Center for Investigative Reporting, so we want to thank Yvonne Laddie and Natalie and the crew from Logan for doing some of the work in documenting this. The other part of bringing the voices of folks who are behind bars out and centered is also the work of community journalism and what it means to document our experiences inside and outside as well. So I want to thank them for joining us tonight as well. I'm going to pass things off to Steve Bloom, the editor of Submerged, and Sheena's editor as well, to welcome you again, to introduce a little bit of the run of the show, and then introduce a bit of the panel as well.
Okay. Can I use this one?
Yes.
All right. This is working, yes? Okay. So, first of all, I want to welcome you, add my welcome to the welcome we just heard. I'm so pleased to see so many folks who are interested in this important book. We do have a sign-up sheet on the table right here. If people would like to leave your names and emails, we'll be in touch with you about other things relevant to the book and all the subject matter in the book. My name is Steve Bloom. I'm a New York City poet, composer, social activist for many years. And as mentioned, I worked with Sheena King. By the way, a point on pronouncing her name.
There we go.
I have known her as Sheena all of the time I've known her. She was known as Sheena in prison. She tells me she's been known as Sheena for longer than she was known as Sheena, but Sheena is the way her name is supposed to be pronounced. So I'm going to do my best to hold up my end of that. And anyone who isn't aware is excused because it's relatively new. Okay, so that's about a little more than a decade ago, I joined the Pennsylvania Prison Society, which is a group some of you probably know, does very good work with prisoners, helping them in their problems, their struggles with prison authorities, and just in daily life. And I did it in order to try to establish a relationship with prisoners who were writing poetry. And I noticed that the Prison Society publication, Greater Friends, was publishing poems by prisoners. So I took the initiative to write letters to a bunch of those prisoners whose poems seemed to have some real literary merit in Greater Friends. The only three who wrote back to me were all inmates at SCI Muncy in Muncy, Pennsylvania. Sheena was not among them. I met her only later. One of them, Terry Harper, introduced me to her, and Terry's poem that I wrote to Terry about is in the book on, I think it's on, I have a note about the page number, page 91 of the book. In any case, I pursued a correspondence with them for a while, then I went to pay them a visit. The second time I paid a visit to the prison, I met Sheena for the first time. And she told me about a memoir that she had written and published online. I read it. I was deeply moved. I suggested to her that we could do some work on it. It was in a much shorter form than you find it now. Didn't include the poems or journal entries. There's some additional chapters, and some of the chapters that she have been developed further. So that was all. We worked on that for many months together to shape the manuscript into the book we now have in our hands. And then we waited for more than a decade for PM Press to come along and decide they wanted to publish it, which is, we are so thankful to PM Press and all the editorial staff there for the work that for the decision to publish the book, and then for the work they did. We have several other speakers this evening who have been involved in the process of working with Sheena and publishing the book. We'll hear from them shortly. But first, I'm going to introduce a reading. This is from the book itself. It's chapter 15, with Sheena reading. It's a chapter about the House of Hope, which when I read it, it brings tears to my eyes. I've read the book 6 or 8 times, cover to cover, and it still brings tears to my eyes. So, can we get that audio?
I didn't have pictures in my possession of my 9-year-old self. And I was pretty certain that most of my group members didn't have any pictures of themselves either. As an adult, it's difficult to see from a child's perspective, as you wonder why it happened, why you failed to tell anyone, why your mother couldn't make him stop. It's hard to see yourself as helpless and small once you are grown. So I needed pictures. The parenting department at Muncy has subscriptions to several magazines. Armed with a stack of them and with poster boards, scissors, and tape, I went to work on a secret project. I made a collage of pictures of little girls. There were individual poster boards, magazines.
This is a call from Pennsylvania State Correctional Institution, Muncy. This call is subject to recording and monitoring.
For each age between 5 and 12. Prior to opening the double doors of the group room before the next meeting, I stood the posters up so that they lined one wall in order by age and said a quick silent prayer. Then I yelled, "Pink Power, time for group," and stood back to watch each face as the women entered. Some were clearly surprised, others apprehensive. 2 of them were angry and stomped out. No one was happy. I didn't expect anyone to be happy, but I also hadn't expected anyone to walk out. I asked the group to be seated and look at the picture, then turned to the child within chapter while I went to see the 2 who had walked out. Barbara was sitting on her bed in tears. After consoling her, I asked, Have I ever steered you wrong? No, she whispered. Just give it a chance. She wiped her face, cleaned her smeared mascara and eyeliner, then marched back to the group room. I took a deep breath and went to another door. Shanae, I'm not fucking doing this, Tracy grinned. You don't even know what it is, I said, Paul. You just have to trust me in order to heal. Sometimes it's going to hurt, but I promise you it will not hurt for long. It's going to get better, and so are you. Some things just have to be confronted if you want your life to change. She stopped pacing back and forth in her tiny cell while swinging her arms. She looked me in my eyes with the cell door and hissed, I'm telling you right now, open your door. She did, and I hugged her, closed the door, and led her back to the group room with one arm around her shoulder. I needed them to remember who they were, that they didn't cause what had happened to them, and that the little girl that had been desperately needing their love, understanding, protection, affection, and connectedness to their adult self. I didn't think this could be accomplished without a visual aid. During the session, I asked each one of them to look closely at the pictures and find the little girl they identified with, one who was the age they had been when childhood was stolen from them. Do you see how small she is, I asked? Do you see the innocence in her eyes? Do you sense the love and trust she feels? Does she seem carefree and happy? She was you.
So one of the recurring figures in this book is Shanae's daughter, Keeva, and we are graced with Keeva's presence this evening, so I'm going to call on her to say a few words.
How do I follow that up? Hi, everyone. Thank you. You can hear me, okay. Hi, everyone. Again, I'm Shanae's daughter. It's funny that he brought up the Sheena Shanae thing because I usually call her Sheena when I'm mad at her and she hates that. But anyway, I definitely want to echo everyone's thanks. Thank you all for being here. I'm sure she would greatly appreciate it. And I just also appreciate everybody that was involved in putting this event together as well. So for me, I just want to start by talking about a little bit about my history and then also trauma. So I don't want to get emotional. Anyway, so when I was in college, I studied criminology. And in criminology, I learned a lot of different things. Obviously, I studied it for more than one reason, not just for myself. But one theory in criminology that particularly stuck with me was the attachment theory. And it resonated with me not only because of my mom's situation. Obviously, once you read or if you've read the book, you can kind of see where I'm going here. But it also resonated with me for myself and growing up and things that was done in my life to not make sure that I ended up a product of attachment theory. So essentially what attachment theory talks about is it talks about those bonds that children make with caregivers growing up, and sometimes the lack of having those particular bonds with the person or the people that's supposed to care for you will eventually lead to criminal behavior later in life. So I want to take that negative and spin it to a positive, and more so talk about how the people that surrounded myself and my brother didn't allow us to become victims of that particular theory that resonated with me in college. My grandmother is here. She sort of, she picked up the ball and carried that weight once the situation happened with my mother. And then also my mother herself, even though at that time she was not the person she is today, she was not healed. Healing never ends. She's still healing. But she wasn't that person when I was growing up. But through it all, she still made sure that myself and my brother, we were regularly checked on. We had group therapy. We were involved in a lot of programs for children of incarcerated parents, which I wish we had more of still in Philadelphia. But we were involved and placed into all of those programs just to make sure that that cycle of trauma that she experienced didn't repeat with her children. And in a lot of households, there is a lot of events that occur and a lot of traumatic experiences that affect people as they grow up. Girl, stop looking at me like that. and a lot of things that affect people. So with her being able to share her experiences in this book, I am super optimistic that it'll help others in their trauma and in their in their circumstances, and to just learn how to heal, where to look for, who to look to, and just to understand that the fight never ends. So I'm really hopeful that people could take this piece and use it to help themselves, because there's a lot of things that go on that a lot of people don't talk about. But one thing I can say from my mother's experience is that it's never over and healing never stops. And the person she is today, she's an amazing person, and she never stops helping others. Even though she can't take back what she did, however, what she could do is use her platform and her power and her voice to help people who've been through situations similar to her, in hopes that, they don't follow that same path and continue that same cycle of trauma. I don't know what else to say. I'm just happy. I'm proud of her. She just got her master's degree. Whoop whoop. She's gone forward to get her doctorate. So I just can't wait for that time when we can kind of continue the path that she started in prison out here and help people directly, outside of her book, but also through her ministry. But thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Keeva, for those beautiful remarks. The Abolitionist Law Center in Pittsburgh has been serving as Sheena's legal representation for many years. And as I'm thanking people for the role they played in getting this book published, I just want to mention that the ALC folks were the ones who made the first connection with PM Press and started the ball rolling for them to publish it. So we should not leave that thank you out this evening. We have several speakers from the Abolitionist Law Center, and I'm going to call on Connease Warren to introduce them. And
Can you pass this?
Good evening. Welcome, and thank you for being here. I'm just here very briefly to talk a little bit about the Abolitionist Law Center, and then to introduce my amazing colleagues. One person who is not here, who's sick, Valerie Kilbala, she was very instrumental in pushing this project forward and advocating for the publishing of this memoir, amazing memoir. So just want to shout her out. So Abolitionist Law Center is a 501c3 nonprofit movement law firm and community organizing project inspired by the struggle of political and politicized prisoners. ALC is led by those who've been directly impacted by the criminal punishment system and other forms of systemic and state violence, including currently and formerly incarcerated people and their loved ones. Wielding class action and impact litigation on behalf of people whose human rights have been violated in jails, prisons, policing, and other carceral institutions, ALC engages in grassroots advocacy, base building, research and public education, pressure campaigns, media outreach, and other strategic communications. And we challenge US-based corporate and governmental entities that perpetrate and support carceral violence and wars abroad. ALC uses these tools in coalition with an extended movement ecosystem to build power, dismantle the racist, classist, mass incarceration system, redistribute resources from carceral institutions to people they harm, and protect the human rights and well-being of people who encounter state violence, including policing, the courts, jails and prisons, and other forms of US-sponsored detention and supervision domestically and overseas. So that's a little bit about ALC. And now I would like to introduce my two colleagues. Rupalee Rashatwar is a staff attorney with ALC based in Philadelphia. So Steve, by the way, we are in Pittsburgh and Philadelphia.
Oh, okay.
Yes. We've grown. So Rupalee received her JD from American University, Washington College of Law, where she was a public interest, public service scholar. And she received her BA from George Washington University. Rupalee interned at various organizations in law school, including Community Legal Services, the Capital Habeas Corpus Unit at the Federal Defender for the Eastern District of Pennsylvania, the American Civil Liberties Unions of DC, and the Public Defender Service of DC. Prior to joining ALC, Rupalee was a public defender at the Office of the Miami-Dade Public Defender for several years, representing individuals facing misdemeanors, felonies, and juvenile charges. At ALC, Rupalee engages in post-conviction, class action, and civil rights litigation on issues ranging from solitary confinement to compassionate release. She is licensed to practice law in Pennsylvania and Florida. And Rikeyah Lindsay, formerly of ALC C4 Arm, is a Black woman, first and foremost, a mother, organizer from Down the Bottom, Mantua, West Philadelphia, and environmental survivor, restorative, transformative justice facilitator and trainer. She's also the co-founder of Village Restoration Project. And I will turn it over to Rupalee.
Thank you for that. I also just want to say it's so nice to see so many of you guys here today supporting Sheena in this project. I know she'd be really moved by this. So I'm Rupalee. I'm one of Sheena's attorneys. Also, Brett Grody is on our legal team, and I was hoping to just say a couple words about her case and what we're doing, and then I'll pass the mic over to Rikeyah, who penned a beautiful foreword to this book and who I think has a lot of meaningful things to say about what it is to be a criminalized survivor and a lot of the work that you do. So Sheena is currently seeking commutation, and for folks who aren't familiar with the commutation process in Pennsylvania, it is long and it is difficult. Sheena applied and actually was granted a public hearing in 2019, but it was denied, and so she applied again last year. For folks who may not know, Sheena committed this crime when she was 18, and the law changed in 2012. The Supreme Court basically stated that anyone who was under the age of 18 at the time they committed a crime and was sentenced to life without parole, which we call death by incarceration, that they would be able to challenge their sentence or have a resentencing, acknowledging that people who are younger often don't have they aren't able to develop their judgments and make sound decisions in the same way an adult would, and that our sentencing law should reflect that. But there's a very sharp cutoff at 18. So even if anyone is 18 in a couple months, 18 in a couple days, they're not able to access the benefit of that law. So Sheena's not able to, meaning the only legal recourse she has is to pursue a commutation, which is basically trying to ask the governor for a clemency or a pardon. So it's a very difficult process. It can take anywhere from 3 to 5 years. It requires the Board of Pardons to vote and to get institution support, meaning support of the prison, support of the entire Department of Corrections, and then enough votes to make it to a merit review, and enough votes at a merit review to make it to a public hearing, and enough votes at a public hearing to be granted a commutation. So it's a very difficult process, and we are supporting her in it. Obviously, you've heard some amazing things that Sheena has been up to. We're going to be submitting all of that to the board in a packet, information about her PhD that she's pursuing, information about the amazing work she's done at House of Hope. And so part of our application will also include support letters. So if you have felt moved, if you would like to support Sheena in her commutation application, I would ask that you sign in also over here, in addition to signing in at Making Worlds, if you might be interested in writing a letter. That's something that we would love to put forward to the board to show them why she should be home, preaching, doing the work she wants to do, writing, being a part of our community. So if you want to be a part of that effort, I encourage you to share your information with us and help us free Sheena. And with that, I'll pass it over to Rikeyah to share some words about some of her work.
Hey y'all, hey. My name is Rikeyah Lindsay. Can y'all hear me? I'm going to share less about my work and more about how I was moved by both reading Shanae's work and meeting Shanae and the work that needs to be done based on this story and so many others like it. Steve mentioned that this is a memoir, but it's also, unfortunately, a coming-of-age story for too many of us in our community. It's a story that is not specific to Sheena. It speaks to the traumas that too many of us have to suffer, starting in our homes. And she does a beautiful job of expressing and sharing both her trauma and her healing. She speaks to forgiveness in a way that most of us don't think to. And then she provides a platform not just for herself, because as was spoken to, there are poems in this book from other women who are incarcerated and have experienced trauma. Also, the restorative and transformative space that is created here. This work speaks to our need as community members to stop looking for carceral spaces to heal anything in our communities, because it will never happen. We have to understand that this system is what creates the harms in our homes. We have to understand that the pains that we endure are intentional at the hands of people who have created the society that we live in. The harms that happened to Sheena have happened to people before her. And when we talk about restorative justice, we have to talk about the fact that those who have been harmed those who have been harmed. And dealing in those root causes is only the beginning, because the transformation happens in accountability. Sheena is a person who is extremely accountable, to the point where that is where her healing happened. You understand? Like, she was able to understand not only what she went through in her life, but be accountable to the fact that she caused the harm to someone. She acknowledges that this is a person that she never even known. And because of the things that she went through and the rage that she felt inside of herself, it led her to not care enough to hurt somebody else. And that is a reality that we are facing in our communities every single day. And until we begin to heal ourselves and heal with each other, we will continue to see these cycles perpetuated. But when I speak to accountability, it does not end with us, because I continue to speak to this system. They are forcing us to harm each other. The harms that happen in our homes happen because we don't have resources. We don't have education. We are taught to hate ourselves. We are taught to hate each other. And then we go out and we do the things that these people want us to do, and they put us in prisons. And then we're thinking about someone like Sheena. This woman is getting her PhD. So in spite of the prison system, she is still being the person that she should be in this community. She is being denied the impact that she could give to us. And we have to use her book. We have to use her words from a book to actually teach young women and people in our communities how we deal with the root causes of the things that are hurting us, but also heal from it so that we can take back our freedom. Sheena is locked up currently, but this book is her liberation for the moment. And although ALC is still fighting for her commutation, through every young woman that reads this book, every person that we share it with in community, we are also doing that work of freeing Sheena.
So thank you. That was just amazing, Rikeyah. While we're talking about praise for the book, since we just had a beautiful expression of it, I just want to mention, there's some flyers over here on the table. It's an advertisement for another book signing that's going to happen in New York City next month. So anyone who knows anyone in New York City, I think everybody knows somebody in New York City. Pick it up and spread the word. And the reason I mention it in this context, you'll see that there are several blurbs of praise for the book, starting on the front of the flyer and then continuing on the back of the flyer. These are the same blurbs that are in the book, so when you buy your copy of the book, you'll have it. But if you'd like it in this form, it's here for you as well. Right now, we're going to listen to another quick reading by Sheena. This is one of her journal entries that's in the book.
It's journal entry, June 1, 2001. I was reading the 23rd Psalm. I remember how I was reciting it while walking down the hall to the courtroom. By the time I came to the end of the verse, I was outside the doors of the courtroom and I knew. I said, I'm going to get life. I resigned myself to it. The days leading up to my sentencing, it seemed likely to go either way. I thought maybe 5, 10, any and everything. Maybe God was telling me before I received my sentence, because I hadn't actually believed it when I was periodically told by inmates that I would get life. At any rate, God told me. I didn't want it, but He prepared me for it. Prepared. You can never prepare for those words. You can never prepare yourself, those whom you love, and who love you in return. You can't reshuffle the deck. I can write my story, but I can't rewrite my life.
So I'm going to close the formal part of the program just by saying a few words about poetry and the poetics in the book. Editing poetry is an art in itself. You kind of have to suspend the usual rules for editors because poets tend to use or misuse, in quotes, the English language in so many ways as a poetic effect in their work. You have to be deeply involved with the person who wrote the poem, their aesthetic, and it's always best, obviously, to engage with them. And Sheena and I were able to do that with her poems in the book. So she collaborated with me, and I collaborated with her in the process of pulling them together. We were not able to do that with the other women whose poems are in the book. They just appear the way we had them, unedited and unchanged. And to me, it's a tribute to poetry as a form, a creative form and an expressive form, that these women who are totally untrained in any formal sense, in terms of writing or poetry, did so well, and their poems are so powerful. I'm going to close. We'll have some questions, time for questions and answers, but before that, I'm just going to read one of those other poems by Nee Sims. It's on page 41. It's called My Shadow. I try to hide that I am fragile, that I hurt deep, and that most scars never heal. I try to hide my pain at any cost. What I want people to see when they see me is a woman of strength and courage. I want people to see me as a leader. What truly makes me who I am is the pain I will struggle with. I'm only as strong as my darkest secret. I'm only as forgiving as my most tortured inner child. I don't really think I want anyone to know me because I am such a complicated woman of sorts. When I am in pain, I never shed a tear. Well, occasionally, one or two. On the inside, I am yelling to be released. I weep and mourn. Only in the depths of my soul, I cringe at my ugly secrets. I stare at the mirror and I know that the lady staring back at me is not the same child who is deep within. No one knows my pain. I am my own worst enemy, Ultimately, my secret will kill me. The scars will never heal, and the blood from my past will thrust from within me just before I die. There are so many tragedies in this one little body. How the hell have I survived for so long? The dark side that I tried to hide is only reflected in my shadow. I truly wish I could lie on the ground where my shadow is and let my shadow lead my life. Without me, my shadow does not exist. But even when I die, my shadow is still there. The good thing about my shadow is that no one can stare into her eyes and know how empty she feels. I'd like to swap places with my shadow. It's so easy to lie there and just exist. So we're going to open it up if people have any questions for the panel. Obviously, Sheena is not with us. If you have questions for Sheena, there's an email address, or if you want to send her comments or thoughts after reading the book, it's on a little slip of paper also on the table over here, so feel free to pick one of those up. If there are questions, and I'm going to make a personal appeal. I need people to stand up and speak because I'm a little bit hard of hearing. So if we're going to hear your questions, stand up and What? Nice on. Just speak.
I just wanted to ask Keeva, thank you for having me here. I really appreciate you being here, and I really enjoy everything you want to say.
Speak up.
You had to say. I guess my question for Keeva is how has your journey through your mother's incarceration changed you to be who you are today?
Oh, that's a good one. So if anybody didn't hear his question, is this, can you hear it? Yeah. Okay. If anybody didn't hear his question, it was basically how has my journey through going through everything with my mother's situation changed me into the woman that I am today. The positives and the negatives of my journey and how my mother's situation has affected me. My degree, I went to school for criminology, pre-law. I also volunteer at the community legal as well. Yeah, I was also an intern here. So essentially, I like science, right? And I like biology, I like chemistry, I like physics. However, my degree is in criminology, pre-law. So to answer your question, pretty much a lot of things that I've done in my life has always been in my mind to help free my mother. So it has kind of led me into the career path I'm in. I'm in enforcement now. It led me into going to college for what I went to college for. What I want to be in science is yes, but I also love what I do. So, but that's definitely the biggest way I can say that it's impacted me. Again, like we were sheltered from a lot of the things that myself learned about in this book. A lot of things we didn't even talk to my mom about until we were teenagers because, we weren't ready is how she put it. So a lot of the traumatic events that she went through, we didn't really experience them, and I'm grateful for that, but it comes with its own set of trauma. That child growing up, making up excuses in school about when they ask about your mom, oh, she lives somewhere else, so I'm glad that I was able to, I don't know if I overcame it, I keep crying about it, but I started to overcome that and be able to be honest about my mother's situation, etc. So I'm grateful in the end, but thank you for that question.
I don't see anyone else jumping up. We do have a poem by Sheena that we've recorded, and maybe we'll play that. It's about 6 minutes, and if anybody has a question, we'll still have a little time after that. So while you're thinking, can we cue up the poem?
Wounded, you have sown. What will you reap? Pain twisted, buried inside, a dark moving mass of hate-filled love that cripples and confuses. Bodies too young to take this blow death on faith. Covered faces, masked smiles that distort features but never touch their eyes. What have you sown? A wall of resolve, facade of Satan bravery, drugs, drinks, violence, sex slavery, a life that might have been truth, your perversion turns into a lie. Inhale, exhale, they move forward yet staying still. You will reap. Do not blame her when she descends, headlong and with abandon, into the pit. She is pushed by your hand, the one that touches, probes young flesh. Warped affections. Here is a child for you to molest. What will you reap? Minds too young and innocent, unequipped to comprehend a self-desire. Should she tell someone? Who will help her? She does not tell. No one can defend her. Less than with violation and scars from cuts so deep, a profusion of blood that flows freely from unhealed wounds. Molesters beware. What you have sown, this also will you reap.
Okay, so,
Grandma, it's a little button on the side. Just press it down.
I have a question. I had a question which was friendly, like, turn it up.
Switch to this one. That one sounds louder.
Hello?
Oh, yeah.
I had a question from the earlier reading before the poem, which was when she mentioned the woman that left after the collage of the young girls and she brought her back in to experience that. It sounded to me like she's helping other people in the prison heal, and I'd be curious to hear about what she's doing to help others heal and uplift from the inside, and like how that work is going and what it looks like.
You want to talk about this? Do you know what else I
So he mentioned the chapter about House of Hope. It's the she started a restorative justice circle group inside of the prison. So that is the work that she is doing to help other women with their healing journey. So those stories that you are hearing are those women who are going through that program and also identifying with the things that they have been through and helping to, help other people heal through their trauma. Rupalee can expand.
Yeah, I think that's a good summary of basically how it works. It's like a group of women that get together very regularly, and they have a lot of facilitated like healing sessions where they will like talk through really specific issues that they're going through. Shena's also a certified peer specialist, so she has a lot of training and is like specifically also designated separate from that to speak to people kind of when they're in crisis and talk to them through through their issues. But the House of Hope is really like a curated space for a lot of people who've been through super traumatic events and who can also guide each other through them. So it's just it's a very powerful space for everybody who is able to participate in it. Yeah.
so one of the things that I find striking when I meet women inmates at SCI Muncy is how many are there because they were the victims of some kind of abuse. It's amazing. And it's heartbreaking, and it's a social tragedy. Sheena has made working with and helping these women to heal from that abuse her life's work while she's incarcerated. And the book is essentially a testimony of how she made that decision from all of the bad decisions that she had made previously in her life, how she came to that understanding and realization that she could do it and that she would do it. So the much deeper answer to your question will be to read the book and hear all about it.
Oh, Rikeyah, you want to add something to that?
Okay. No, I don't want to add anything. I got a question, if it's okay, for Shena's mom. how has Shanae's like transformation inspired you like through her journey and y'all walk together?
Shanae's journey, I guess, is our journey. To lose my firstborn child at 18 to life imprisonment was something I'm still dealing with. She's probably more healed than I am. But she's always been a support and a strength for me because I had her children. And she's always been active in their upbringing. She, as her daughter said, she did not want them to face the trauma that she did. She didn't want them to have that loss of a parent, even though she essentially, they lost their parent. I'm very proud of her, I must admit. She was always a good student and serious about learning, and she kept that. I love the turnaround. She was a very angry young woman, teenager, with reason. And to find that kind of hope and healing in such a horrible place. I went to her graduation, I went to pieces, not because of her, but looking at all these children, and it took me back to when my child got to Muncy. And it's still so many babies still coming in there, still hurt, still needing that healing. Yes, I'm very proud of her in the way she's taken her pain and used it to help others.
I'm not sure who would be best to answer this. I think it would probably be Sheena. Unfortunately, she's not here today. But it seems like there was, from what you had mentioned, and you also mentioned, that there was a period of time where Sheena didn't really want to share her stories with the people closest to her for a long time. And from what I'm hearing from this memoir, the snippets I've heard, and I'm excited to read it, it seems like it's a very intimate memoir with journals dating back years and years. And I'm curious, I guess, what the writing process was to write such an intimate memoir, but then also that if there's a way to answer like what that internal process was, going from someone who isn't wanting to share so many pieces of herself to writing something so vulnerable and opening up about so many pieces of her life.
I think I'm going to field that.
Right, Sheena.
Because there's a lot in common with serious poets writing poetry. I often say you have to be willing to take off your clothes in public to write poetry which is going to move other people. And you're right, it was a conscious choice at one point for her to say, I'm just going to tell my story, but she actually has a little blurb in the beginning of the book. I've told my story, tell yours, it will free you. And that was her experience. Once you overcome that inhibition, that hesitation, that wondering whether people are going to laugh at you or scorn you or whatever, if you reveal this intimate, personal, vulnerable side of yourself, it has a very liberating effect. So that was her experience. I don't know if anybody else on the panel wants to add.
Yeah, I just wanted to add too, I think more so than just liberating and helping her in her healing journey, I think that it would be impossible for her to help others without first expressing all of the things that she went through. The other thing too is family. So I am glad that she was able to unapologetically write that. She didn't want me or my brother to read it, so I will share that piece of information, even though how could she stop us? Again, that's now our family has to also face that hard truth. So then it becomes a bond between us all, where now we're all in that healing process with her, my grandmother included, because, a lot of people push things under the rug. It happened in the past, and we don't want to open up that can of worms again. However, this book forced our family to open up that can of worms and really address, like you mentioned, root causes. You know what I mean? And it also allowed us to, start to understand her history, my grandmother's history, a lot better, and going back to that cycle I'm referring to, that cycle of traumatic events where this wasn't the first time. This has been almost generations of things like this, and it's like, okay, we have to be the end. We're going to end that cycle, and I'm glad that our family was able to come together and also face those hard truths. But again, write her, because I think that would be a great question for her. So definitely, send that email, because I would love to hear the answer to that as well. Yeah, did anybody else want to chime in?
Okay. On that, I'm Brett, I'm one of Sinead's lawyers, but Sinead told me that, I think it was in the process of getting the book ready for publication, which Steve was working with her to go over the memoir that she'd written years ago. She said she wrote it very fast, and she didn't look at it again. She did not read it again. And I just shared that little detail because I think it's telling in regard to just how unfathomably difficult it must have been to not just revisit those experiences, but to do it with the prose that she did, the eloquence, the detail, the honesty, and that must have taken a lot from her, right? And it was a real sacrifice, and it's a gift to everybody who is able to benefit from what she shared.
If there's one more question, we have time for it. If not, we can just move to the book signing. Now Sheena is not with us, but we do have her signature with us, which we will paste into any books that anybody wants to buy and bring. Keeva's going to do the honors. I don't know exactly what the logistics are for that, but whatever it is, I again want to thank everybody for your attention, for your intelligent questions, for your caring about this vital book and important subject. And if you want to stay in touch with us about anything that we've discussed here, please sign the list. Take the slip with Shanae's email where you can ask her your question, and the flyer for the New York event. Anybody else want to say anything else in closing?
No, just thank you all, and great questions. I appreciate it.
Buy the book.
Okay.
I'll just say, everybody, please sign up, because we want to follow up with you as our legal team to solicit letters of recommendation, because these are going to accumulate. Shanae's touched so many people's lives. You should write to her, to know her, but also if you just read the book and it moves you, then this is going to be an important tool that we're using to organize, mass support for her commutation efforts. So please sign up.
Thank you.